Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am talking about haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And there are many ways to support the show. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can check out the Patreon feed and get extra content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and other items there with designs made by friends of the show. And support is never expected but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. And please also check out the projects of friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and is the co-host of this show on Saturdays when she is able to make it. And Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows as well as my own, 24/7 online for free. And I believe that takes care of everything. As always with these haunted places shows, I will include links to the locations I talk about in these brief summaries here in the episode description, and so you can check them out and do your own research to make sure and to see if it is still possible to visit them. That is an important thing to do. Not all these places will always be available or open to the public, and I do not recommend trespassing for any reason. So, and for many reasons. So that takes care of all that. We are actually on our last location in Indiana. Um, so we'll start with that. This is this place called Stepp Cemetery, Stepp Cemetery, and this is Martinsville, Indiana. So Stepp Cemetery, located deep within the Morgan Monroe State Forest near Martinsville, Indiana, is a pioneering burial ground known for both its historical roots and its eerie reputation as one of Indiana's most haunted sites. Historical background: the cemetery was established in the early 1800s and contains approximately 114 graves, including those of Jacob Adkins, who donated uh, the land, and notable pioneers such as Reuben Stepp. The oldest recorded grave is that of Isaac Hartsock, Hartsock, a War of 1812 veteran who died in 1851. Veterans from the Civil War and both World Wars are also buried here. The cemetery became part of Morgan Monroe State Forest in 1929, making it even more remote, and is now only accessible by hiking trails. Over the years, the cemetery has suffered from vandalism and neglect, but conservation efforts have aimed to preserve this historic site. Let me see. So there's an occult reputation here. Apparently, Stepp Cemetery is associated with a fringe Christian sect known as the Crabites. That's fascinating. Led by William Crabb, Crabb, in the early 1900s. The Crabites were alleged to practice unusual and taboo religious rituals at the cemetery, such as snake handling, speaking in tongues, ecstatic dancing, uh, nude ceremonies, animal sacrifices, and even attempts at resurrection. These practices, although often exaggerated by legend, contributed to the cemetery's dark and mysterious reputation, with some claiming the group's activities summoned dark entities to the area. But there's always a thing I wonder too how much these groups when any kind of group gets together, how much of whatever they do or don't do, how much exaggeration or um, sort of just speculation leads to legends of just the biggest, most evil groups out there, and how often is that like an extreme exaggeration of what the group actually does, and how often is it accurate? I don't know. That's a topic for another day. Anyway, paranormal reports and hauntings. The most famous. I lost my spot because I scrolled. One moment. There we go. The most famous legend is that of the Lady in Black. Various versions of the story exist, but most involve a grieving mother who lost her child, um, buried in 1937, sitting on a well known tree stump uh, near the child's grave, sometimes seen cradling an infant. Some tales say the woman would dig up and rebury her child's body out of madness, and that her ghost still lingers, mourning and singing lullabies to her child. The stump near this grave is rumored to be cursed with legends warning of misfortune or death to any who sit on it. Um, Visitors often report apparitions, a persistent sense of being watched, disembodied voices, strange lights, cold spots, orbs, and electronics malfunctioning in the cemetery. Other stories mention the ghosts of children, disembodied chanting, and ominous howling believed to be linked to the site's past religious rituals and possible occult activity by other groups. And that's the how that location is known, I guess. There's a lot there. Um, and it's weird how some locations the paranormal activity is said just to be the occult activity, even if there's no reports of actual hauntings. But then you have other locations where you have both, and there does seem to be reports of paranormal activity there. I don't know what to make of all that, but it is something I've noticed before. So now we are actually moving on to the state of Iowa, as a rather loud vehicle moves through the parking lot behind me. But anyway, so we are actually on the Villisca Axe Murder House. I'm sure many of you have heard of this one. Um, this will just be a summary. It could probably be a whole show, even though I don't think I'd want to do that because, again, just the topic, the subject matter. The Villisca Axe Murder House, located in Villisca, Iowa, is the infamous site of one of America's most shocking unsolved crimes. Its tragic history and decades of haunting reports have turned it into a major destination for paranormal enthusiasts. Historical background. On the night of June 9th to early morning of June 10th, 1912, the six members of the Moore family, uh, Josiah, Sarah, and their four children, along with two overnight guests, Lana and Anna Schillinger, were brutally murdered in their house or their home. Each victim suffered fatal head wounds delivered with Josiah's own axe. Most were attacked as they slept. Uh, Lana Lana showed Stillinger's there we go, showed signs of defensive wounds, suggesting she awoke and tried to resist. Investigation into the murders was hampered by crowds contaminating, if I could read right, the scene. Despite a lengthy investigation, multiple suspects, and even a trial, the crime remains unsolved. The home passed through several owners, suffered periods of vacancy, and was restored in the 1990s to its appearance at the time of the killings. Paranormal reports and hauntings. Today, the house is renowned for its intense haunting activity and is operated as a museum and paranormal research site, offering both daytime tours and overnight stays for ghost hunters. I don't know how I feel about that, but anyway. Commonly reported phenomena include disembodied children's voices, shadowy figures, unexplained footsteps, and doors opening or closing on their own. Visitors and paranormal investigators often capture EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, experience objects moving, and report feelings of overwhelming dread, particularly in the children's rooms and attic. Some guests have recorded strange photographic anomalies, such as orbs and unexplained mists, and a few have reported being physically touched, scratched, or feeling hands tugging at their clothing during overnight investigations. The hauntings, excuse me, are frequently attributed to the restless spirits of the Moore family, the Stillinger sisters, or possibly the unknown killer with the site's violent past believed to be the source of the activity. So, and that's the end of that summary. Again, this is one of those places where if you look into it, you can find all kinds of information about it. So, yes, and Sweets pulled up a link in the chat there as well. So, and yeah, so I could actually include that in the episode description if I remember. Um, but anyway, excuse me. Moving on to the next location here, we have Edinburgh Manor in Scotch Grove, Iowa. This is a historic former poor farm and psychiatric institution with a turbulent past and a strong reputation as one of one of the Iowa's most haunted sites. Excuse me. Okay. Historical background. The land was originally intended for a courthouse in the 1840s, but instead became Jones County's poor farm, housing the poor, disabled, elderly, and people considered insane or undesirable by the standards of the time. The first building, dating to 1850, operated as a poor farm for 60 years. More than 80, and possibly up to 230, deaths are documented from those years, many of whom were buried on the property, sometimes in unmarked graves. In 1911, the older facility was demolished and the large brick structure known as Edinburgh Manor was completed, functioning as an asylum and county home until its closure in 2010. Residents included those with chronic mental illness, intellectual disabilities, and elderly individuals. The building was abruptly vacated in 2010 with residents moved to another facility. Much of the interior was left exactly as it was, including personal effects, and documents, giving the site a frozen in time quality. In 2012, new owners opened the manor for preservation and allowed ghost tours and overnight investigations, cementing its status as a haunted attraction. Paranormal reports and hauntings. Edinburgh Manor is reputed for intense paranormal activity, frequently investigated by ghost hunters and featured on shows such as I lost my spot, Ghost Adventures. Common claims include apparitions, shadow figures, cold spots, unexplained noises, and disembodied voices throughout the 12,000 square foot structure. Women who suffered abuse at the manor are said to account for particularly aggressive female spirits, especially toward male visitors. Uh, let's see, so scratches, pushes, and physical attacks have been reported. Uh, Other phenomena include doors slamming, objects moving on their own, and unsettling feelings of being watched even among seasoned investigators. The spirits of former residents are believed to linger, with reports of uh, a childlike apparition, a figure known as the Joker, and other named presences said to interact or communicate with guests. So that's quite a lot there. And it doesn't surprise me. Again, if you look into the history of these types of locations, any kind of uh, mental health hospital facilities, medical facilities, you see a lot of activity reported in them after, during, sometimes during, but also after they're they stop operating as that kind of location. So, um, Sweets is I think it's Sweets. Let's see here. Let me look at the chat here. Yeah, Sweets just pull out another link there, and so yeah, let me see here. So yeah, then you can see some pictures of these locations, and if you look online for them, we'll get to I think at least one more location here. This next one is Malvern Manor in Malvern, uh, Iowa. It's a historic building renovated for, renowned for its haunted reputation and numerous paranormal investigations. The site has a long, varied history and is considered one of Iowa's most notable haunted locations. Historical background. Malvern Manor was originally built in the late 1800s as a hotel that served travelers on the Wabash Railroad. Over the decades, the building transitioned into a care facility, boarding house, and group home for those with mental illnesses and disabilities. Um, so that's fascinating and explains some. If there's a lot of activity there, then you have two common types of locations that are known for having activity, paranormal activity. The manor's use as a residential care center extended into the late 20th century, exposing the historic structure to significant emotional and psychological traumas due to its residents' backgrounds. My spot again. Okay. The manor closed its doors in the early 2000s and has since become the site of frequent paranormal tours and research events. Notable hauntings and paranormal reports. Malvern Manor is widely recognized for its array of documented paranormal phenomena. Reported experiences include disembodied voices, footsteps, and unexplained noises frequently heard throughout the building. Apparitions and shadow figures reported by guests, investigators, and staff. These are often spotted in specific rooms and hallways, especially near the former residence quarters. Personal encounters involving touches, temperature drops, and feelings of unease or heaviness, especially in locations once used for medical care or isolation. The legend of a spirit named Irena, believed to be a former resident who still interacts with visitors, as well as sightings of malevolent and childlike entities. Melbourne Mansion has been featured in multiple paranormal documentaries and television programs due to the intensity and consistency of the activity. Contemporary paranormal interest. Today, Melbourne Manor operates as a paranormal attraction, hosting public investigations, tours, and research groups. It has earned notoriety within the ghost hunting community and remains a focus for ongoing study and media coverage. The building's layered history, ranging from hospitality to mental health care, contributes to the complexity of its haunting phenomena. So, um, sounds like a lot happened there. And let's see here. Yeah, there's not enough time to go into the next one. But you see this over and over again with so many places, whether they're hotels or um, they're these mental health facilities. And when you have both, I can only imagine the possibilities there of activity that could generate. Um, so I I don't know. Just you find this over and over again, and this is one of the things that I want to. I think the series is sort of pointing out here this common, how common it is for hotels and asylums of different kinds to have activity in them. So we've seen this over and over again so far, and there's still many states in the U.S. to go to get to. So I have an idea for what I want to do for eventually after we finish this series, and I'm wondering what you all think about this. I think this show does not get into a lot of creatures or cryptids, at least not often. What do you all think of a series focused on the U.S. again, just because it's easiest to do because of the English language, basically? What about creatures and cryptids of the U.S.? And I go through each of the states, um, same way I'm doing with the haunted places, and and we just go over, how many ever I find enough research or material on for each state in the U.S. and and we just go over that, and I'll do it the same way I've been doing these shows now. And yeah, I think that'll be fun, something different. And so again, it's not going to happen anytime real soon because we're only on Iowa, so we have a ways to go. But yeah, okay, sounds good. Thank you all for the chat there, and thanks to Sweets for all the links. And thank you all for listening. And I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.